Department of Artificial Intelligence and Data Science, and it is my privilege to welcome you all to the day 3 of this program. Further, it is my immense pleasure to introduce you to Professor Dr. Ajeya, who is the speaker of this session. Professor Dr. Ajeya, who is the founding head of the Department of Management Studies, SMIT, is also the Associate Director R&D and has been a professor in the Department of Management Studies at SMIT since February 2000. In addition to having postgraduate and doctoral degrees in business administration, he also possesses graduation and post-graduation in pharmaceutical sciences. He is a fellow of the International Society of Management and a life member of the Indian Pharmaceutical Congress. He has a rich and diverse industrial experience as a plant head for 15 years, including launching 2 greenfield projects with multinational pharmaceutical companies such as Pfizer India Limited and Franco-Indian Pharmaceuticals. Apart from this, his teaching experience is 25 years, during which he served as the principal of the Himalayan Pharmacy Institute for 2 years and with International NGO for 8 months. His research interest includes biopharmaceutics, marketing, human resource development, sustainable development, natural resource management, wildlife tourism, wildlife management, and tribal know-how. He has authored 23 books, 25 international book chapters, 200 research papers, including 100 Scopus Web of Science and ABDC indexed papers, 200 articles of common interest. He has also presented 80 papers in national and international seminars and conferences and has delivered over 80 invited speeches. He holds 11 international and national patents and has coordinated about 65 management development programs and is a corporate trainer associated with the Government of Northeastern States, NHPC, National Grid, National Productivity Council, Zydus, Alchem, Citla, and Zuventus. Further, he has successfully undertaken 9 research projects for the AICTE, UNESCO, Indo-Canada Environment Facility, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, National Institute of Rural Development, Development Alternatives and Worldwide Fund for Nature India, and has successfully supervised 18 doctoral works. He has served SMU as a member of the Academic Senate, Executive Council, and Governing Council. He has authored 2 novels and 70 children's stories. He is also a well-known motivational speaker and is known for his contribution to wildlife, literature, ecology, and anthropological and cultural studies. So, let us gear up for another engaging day filled with knowledge sharing, interactive discussions, and thought-provoking sessions. With this note, I welcome our speaker onto the dais.
Thank you, everyone. I have to be here in front of this. I thought I would be with the students. Anyway, once again, a very warm good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session. I am very keen to know each one of you individually, but I think the time will not permit that. So maybe during the tea and other time we will be interacting with each other. My introduction has already been made. So let me start with the discussion. At the beginning itself, let me tell you, I do not have any background of remote sensing or even artificial intelligence. But then I am a very keen researcher, and therefore the concepts of research into what we call the remote sensing, essentially ecological part of it, And artificial intelligence, as all of us know, that it is a useful tool for data acquisition and data analysis and maybe data storage also. So it will not directly affect the discussion which we are going to have today. Fine. All of you are welcome wherever you feel to ask a question or make a suggestion. You can do it in between also. So there is nothing that you have to, wait for the end of the session. Fine. Now let me. Okay. Let me just give you a brief background. I was born and brought up at Sagar University in Madhya Pradesh, and where the university is located on a hill with a good forest around it. And so my entire childhood I spent roaming in the forest. And I would be making observations over there even when I was maybe about 7-8 years old. And one person who took very keen interest in my observations during those days was my father. He was a kind of a person who would be, talking to me as, he will be talking to an adult. So whenever I'll come back, and he will definitely ask me, like, what did you see today? What was your experience today? And so on. And I would be telling him. And so, for example, if I told him that I saw a bird of this kind, then he would be asking how big it was. So initially I didn't know how to answer that question. Then he taught me that, no, okay, is it as big as a flower pecker, or is it as big as a sparrow, or as big as a manna, or as big as a dove, or as big as a pigeon, or as big as a crow. Fine. So that way I started, observing, making those observations. I was very keen to observe not only the birds but plants also, maybe the reptiles. I mean, that place was full of snakes and lizards, so I took a lot of interest in them. He also taught me, if you come across, for example, I told him I saw a dead snake today. So he would encourage me that, you see, this is an opportunity for you to observe very minutely the color, the scales, and all those things. So I picked up that, since very childhood, and it has become a part of my nature. Now, wherever I go, I automatically start taking interest in, I will keep on, looking for the possibility of any animal or anything, or a bird or a plant, and so on. Fine. Now, as you can see that this year itself in that campus, a leopard was sighted once again. I mean, the leopards are there in that forest also. So the point I am making is that my approach to research has been emotional. It has not been intellectual. And that is what I would like as a first request to each one of you. Just suspend your intellect. Just suspend the idea that you are working hard. Just suspend the idea that, you have to work hard to study and to do research. Okay? That is a very incorrect way of looking at it. You are not lazy. Research is not boring. Academics is not boring. Fine? All of you are wonderfully alive people, and your academics and science are as interesting as maybe music, sports, or anything. Fine? We like sports, we like music because we make an emotional approach. Fine? The same has to be for this also. Whatever you do, please start enjoying it. Till the joy is not there, you will never be able to have good research. That I can assure you. Just the hard work will never take you over there. Fine? These are some of the works which I have done for the WWF India. I made a baseline survey of the mammals of Sikkim after coming over here. I have also undertaken study on the reptiles and amphibians of Sikkim, and there are other works also. Okay. Now let us try to understand what exactly the research is. I understand that each one of you is here not because of only academic interest in remote sensing and your artificial intelligence. You are here because you want to undertake research also. Fine. So let us understand. Can anyone tell me what exactly research is?
Finding something.
Sorry?
Finding something.
Finding something, okay. Sure. Anyone else? Please do not be afraid of wrong answers, because there are hardly any wrong answers, as I know.
Discover new fact.
Sorry?
Discover a new fact. New fact.
New fact, okay.
Produce new knowledge.
Sorry?
To produce new knowledge.
To produce new knowledge, I think he has come very close to it. We consider, okay, let me first put it that when I'm asking the question, what is research? I'm trying to understand how does research differ from search. There are two words, search and research. What is the difference?
Research. Research.
Sorry?
Again, we are searching for something. Again, we are
Something
searching.
exists.
Again, we are searching. Okay.
Something exists, and we can search another, adding more.
Adding more, okay. Well, essentially, if I ask you to go to the library and get a certain book, you will go to the library and you will search for the book. Why? Because you know that the book exists. Fine? And therefore, research is something where you make a search which does not exist. And that way, when he said that research is, coming up with new knowledge, yes, that's a very correct approach to it. That, you see, knowledge is infinite. When you read a book, maybe you touch maybe 0.1% of the knowledge. 99.9% knowledge is still untapped. Okay, it was Einstein who said that I am like a child who's playing on the seashore, when the actual knowledge of ocean of knowledge remains untouched. Now, if Einstein said it, imagine where do we stand. Fine? So, let's look at the research. Now, we say that research is a way of finding solutions to our problems. Okay? Is one way of doing it. So now my question to you is, if it is one way of finding the solutions, then what are other ways of finding solutions to your problems? In your day-to-day life, you keep on solving problems. It could be maybe as simple as in the morning deciding which dress to wear. It could be as simple as that. How do you solve that problem?
So in this case, we are taking the opinion of someone. So all the findings of somebody, like we can,
Okay.
put that in our book.
Yeah. Anyone else?
We already have reasoning, sir. We already have some knowledge.
We already have some knowledge, okay?
This reason in the framework of what we know actually.
Okay. In the framework of what I know, you know. Okay. It is not exactly knowledge. There is a term called heuristics. Have you heard of the term heuristics? Heuristics essentially mean thumb rules. Okay? It could be as simple as that today my toothpaste is finished. I go to the shop and I generally believe that was a fairly good enough toothpaste, so I do it. So my heuristic is as simple that past experience. Okay, it could be as simple as that. Fine? Now, my question to you is, which is better, heuristic or research? Sorry?
Research.
Research is better. Okay? Anyone else? Anyone voting for heuristics?
Heuristics.
Heuristics. Why?
Because it solves a lot more problems for us in our lives than research.
Yeah, you are right. You see, if we start going for research for every problem, okay, I think we would be overwhelmed.
It says something.
You won't have the time to do
It
it.
says something new should be tried.
Sorry?
Something new should be tried now.
Obviously, something new should be tried, but then you see, heuristics provide you with the time, low cost. Research is costly, research is time consuming, and therefore it's a good idea that we go ahead with, heuristics. And heuristics have not actually let us down. Okay, we have been quite successful surviving it. Okay. Okay, now when we say that research is one way of solving problems, there are three aspects of research which need to be emphasized. Okay, what are those three aspects? The first is that research is always undertaken within the framework of philosophies. Okay, now my question to you is, what is philosophy? I'm sure some of you are aspiring to do PhD. What is PhD?
Future is future is
Sorry?
future.
No.
Doctor of philosophy.
Sorry?
Doctor of philosophy.
Doctorate.
Doctor of philosophy. But why, if you do engineering also, you do doctor of philosophy? If you do science, even then you are doctor of philosophy. If you do philosophy, then also you are doing doctor of philosophy.
Sir, because
Why?
there are, metaphysical questions that are involved in every stream of knowledge, and you just try to answer those questions, those basic questions. That's why they are all known as philosophies when we go for higher studies.
Okay, you are quite right. Philosophy essentially is the understanding that if you want to gain knowledge, it has to be followed logically. Okay? The logic that we talk about, that has come to us from the concept of philosophy. Okay? In about 2400 years ago, the Plato and the Aristotle and the Socrates in the Western countries, Western world, they were the ones to talk about logic. Okay? In India also we have had our own, scientists who actually followed the concept of logic. Fine? Which means that you cannot do anything which is illogical in research. That's a very important aspect of it. Fine? Just to give you an example, when my daughter was about 4 years old, okay, if she was having fever, okay, I would tease her by saying that, let us make an experiment. I'll beat you, so perhaps, you may become better, healthy again. Was I right? Was I right? Yes or no? Why was I not right? It was an experiment. Sorry, sir? Yeah, because there is no logic into it. Okay? All of us are aware that fever happens when our body is attacked by some infection, and in order to fight that infection, the mind tells the body to raise the temperature, okay, so that the fight can happen. The white blood cells will go to that particular site and start fighting, start defending. That is the logic. Which means if I have to come up with any way of getting rid of the fever, I have to attack the infection. Okay, and there is no relationship that if I beat someone, then the infection will go away. It will not happen. Fine? So one of my requests to each one of you is that, because what I am talking about today is about the weaknesses that I find in the research of people. Okay, most of us are very keen to collect the data analyze it, and submit the findings. That's all. But that is not research. Research will be a PhD. You are supposed to add to the knowledge, add to the understanding, and which means existing theories have to be invoked. They have to be invoked so that you can explain. You do not explain that this happens, you also explain why this happens on the basis of those theories. So that's a very, very important aspect of it. Right? Then the second part is the validity. Have you heard the word validity? Now, what do you mean by validity?
After verification something to validate it.
Yeah, validation, we will validate it. But what exactly validation is?
For justifying.
It is supported by something.
It's supported by something, okay? You see, again, let me take one example. Suppose I want to find that in this room, who is the most intelligent person? Okay? And I set an experiment. The experiment is that I bring Maggie and everybody eats it. The one who eats the most is the most intelligent. Will you agree with that? No. Why?
That is not validate that the person is intelligent.
No, because intelligence is nothing to do with your ability to eat Maggie. It is nothing. It's a wrong method. So when we say validity, the methodology, the techniques, the instruments that you are using, they should be appropriate. Okay? Most of you, when you will go for your registration of PhD, or you may have gone for it, you will be feeling that why people are asking unnecessary questions. They are not unnecessary. If somebody is asking you the question, why this instrument when there are other instruments also, you have to justify it. Why this technique? And then again you have to justify it. Fine? So, when we say valid, it means the right methodology has been used. Okay? And the third is the reliability. Reliability is the correctness of the scales. Okay? If I pick up a scale of, say, where the 1 meter is actually only 90 centimeters, not 100 centimeters, and then I measure this room, will it be correct? It will not be correct. Why? Because my scale is wrong. It happens a lot. Okay, since most of you are with a science background, have you heard of a term called calibration? What is calibration?
There is standard value and there should be a standard value and we calibrate accordingly to close to it. Or
Okay, anyone else? Calibration? Have you ever calibrated any instrument? What is calibration?
Calibration is to know, measure an unknown parameter or scale, whatever you have made, to be standard value. So we are
Okay,
calibrating that if 2 volume is equal to the 4 volume. Then if we know this value of this 4, we calculate if 8 volume is of this parameter we have measured, then we can calculate from the standard method.
Sure, I think you are very right. Let me put it this way. I have been very keen that I lose some weight, okay, for last 30 years. Okay, but somehow whatever I do, I don't lose anything. Fine, so I am 78, 79 kg for last 30 years. One fine day I went there and I found that my weight is 75 kg. I was delighted. Okay. But then something, appeared that, it is not correct. Then I looked at the weighing balance. I found that the weighing balance, when nothing is on it, it should be on 0, the needle should be on 0. It was below 0. So the calibration means I bring back the zero. Okay. And the way I have been taught, because I have a background in pharmaceutics, we were taught that it is not the zero part only. You have to check whether the same weight, when you say 21 kg and 22 kg, and 22 and 23 and 23 and 24, they should exactly be the same. It cannot be that from 20 to 21 kg it is 1000 grams, from 22 to 23 kg it is 990 grams. It cannot happen. So that's what calibration is. The point I am making is that instruments that you will be using, they are not gods. Okay, they can always provide you with, in fact, whenever you come across something dramatic, the first thing is check back your instrument. Something may have gone wrong with it. Fine? So, are these three things clear? One, always undertake the research within the framework of a philosophy. Second, do everything possible to ensure that whatever you are doing is right, the methodology is right. And the third, that your skills, you always keep on, checking whatever the measuring instrument that you are having, that is working fine. Fine? Just to take one example, animal behavior and human behavior in psychology can be explained by various theories. We were talking about the philosophy, so I'm coming to it. Philosophy and theories are one and the same thing. Fine? When I say philosophy, okay, the Newton, if I drop this, will it fall upwards or sidewards or downwards? It will fall downwards. Why? Because the theory, the Newtonian theory says that if I drop it, it will fall exactly at 90 degrees. Fine? But are there non-Newtonian movements in this world? Have you heard of non-Newtonian movements? They are also there. Fine? So, as I was saying that in psychology, the behavior can be explained through these 5 ways. Now, behaviorism says that all behaviors are acquired or learned. Okay? So, a person who believes in that philosophy, he will try to explain on the basis of, how and why one behavior was acquired. The second is the internal state, such as solving, decision making. Inside us also, okay, there are forces. Okay, it could be motivation, it could be fear, it could be maybe the problem that I am facing, so I have to solve a problem. Okay, that will lead to some behavior. Fine? So that is the second one. The third is the individuals as more than the sum of their parts. This is what you call the humanistic philosophy, humanistic theory, which says that we as a human being, we are not just our personality and whatever we have, we are much more than that. The second last is thoughts, urge, emotions and memories that lie outside our conscious awareness, which means that, we have a lot of experience which has been suppressed, okay, about which we do not remember anything. I don't think any of us remember anything what happened to us at the age of 2 also. But then whatever happened there, that does affect us even today. The unconscious, the subconscious. So it is about that. And then of course human emotion and behavior to the biological causes. You are aware that we behave also because of the hormonal changes within us. Is it not?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is another theory, that our behavior is determined biologically. The point I am making is that these are different theories which are used for explaining the behavior. Now, there is something called the researcher's autonomy. Okay, what is researcher's autonomy? It is as simple as that if you are starting your research on the basis of, say, behaviorism, okay, nobody can come and tell you, no, behaviorism is wrong, the biological theory is right, you have to stick to that. That nobody can tell you. All the philosophies, all the theories are valid. Are you getting my point?
No.
You didn't get it. You are presenting your PhD for registration, okay? And you have decided that, okay, I'm making this study, and behavior, you are justifying whatever you are justifying on the basis of behaviorism theory. The expert who has come, he is with a medical background, and he believes it is biology that determines it. He will start saying, no, you are wrong. It does not happen, it is not a learned behavior. It happens because of biology. So change your research. You should not. It is your autonomy. He has to assess your validity and the reliability part on the basis of this theory only. He cannot interject his preference of the theory onto you. Am I clear? I am telling it because this happens very often. Okay, not so much in science and engineering, but in history, in psychology, in sociology, in management, it keeps on happening. Fine? Now, does this happen in science also? Since you are doing remote sensing. Okay, essentially it is the light. Now my question to you is light a wave or is it a particle? What is it? Is it light? Is it a wave or is it a particle? Wave. Yes. Einstein was recognized mainly because of this. Because what was happening was that people were conducting experiments and they were expecting light to behave like an energy, like a wave. But sometimes it was not behaving in that manner. Fine? Now, that was a puzzle for everyone. And then Einstein came up with the theory that possibly it is a duality, that light is not only a wave, it can be a quantity, it can be a particle also. Fine? And eventually, you see, remember one thing, Einstein had not conducted any experiment. He had not conducted any experiment. He had arrived at this conclusion on the basis of, the theoretical construct of the behavior of light. He had arrived at this conclusion. Later onwards, he was proved correct. So even in remote sensing, at times you will have to invoke the wave theory to explain what you are doing. Okay, this is happening because light is a wave, and therefore it will have these implications. But on certain occasions, you may have to go for the quantum theory. Fine, the quantum theory says that light essentially are discrete particles. Fine? So, whenever you do a research, you may have to invoke any one of these theories to explain it. Fine, it should be mentioned somewhere. These are the reasons why the theory is very, very important, very, very integral to research. You see, when you are conceptualizing and identifying, it provides a conceptual foundation and understanding of the basic process. Okay. your understanding, your comprehension will be much better if you understand the theory also. Fine? When you are operationalizing the key variables, okay, when we are trying to identify the important variables, that theory will provide us the base for identifying them. Fine? When we are selecting the research design, the right research design will again be guided by the theory that is governing the phenomenon. Okay. Even selecting a sample, analyzing and interpreting the data and integrating the findings, you need the theory part. Fine? So my point is that theory is not required at a certain stage. It is required at every stage. When you are writing the introduction, theory has to be mentioned. When you are doing literature review, the theory comes into it. When you are, your methodology, then also the theory will be invoked. When you are coming to result and discussion, when you have to justify why these results are, or why these findings are there, again the theory will come in. Fine? Okay. Do we have a common WhatsApp group?
Yes.
We have? So if I send one quiz, will you please do it quickly?
Yes, sir.
So, okay, I'm sending to her. You don't have it. So to whom do I send it? Come here. So, आपका मोबाइल नंबर क्या है? 890
639
आगे अब नहीं आ गया. अच्छा, आई हैव इट. फाइन, मैं उसमें ही दे देता हूँ. On the other hand, tigers have been seen to, travel maybe 200 kilometers or 300 kilometers. Recently, one tigress from Odisha, it came to Jharkhand and then it came to West Bengal also. So they can move. But then we found that the foxes had a differing, the ranges. Can you tell me why? Resource availability. Where there is a lot of resource, there they don't have to move much. Where there is scarcity of resources, there they have to move a lot. It was assumed that they will be in the relatively undisturbed areas, and yes, they were found more in the wasteland within urban area, wasteland, houses with large gardens. Some houses had large gardens, so they could be found over there. But they were not found in city forest. Why? Because city forest is the area where people go to walk. During the daytime, so many people will be over there. So again, they are trying to avoid the human beings. Foxes are known to avoid competition. The meaning is that 2-3 foxes cannot, in other words, foxes are territorial animals. They have their own territory. Fine? But we found sometimes that territory was not needed. In one territory itself, 3-4 foxes were there, or 3-4 families of foxes were there. Why? Because when there is a scarcity, obviously territory has to be protected. When there is no scarcity, you don't need any territory. Fine? So, the point I am making is, it is with the help of a theory only these hypotheses were made, and even if they did not, they were not proved right, they were not accepted, even then justification was there, theoretical justification was there. We also undertook another study on the mixed grouping behavior. What is a mixed grouping behavior of birds? In English, there is a saying that birds of the same feather, they flock together. What is the meaning of that? Yeah, it means sparrows are in the group of sparrows, pigeons are in the group of pigeons, doves are in the group of doves. Not mimicry. Mimicry is something completely different. They generally the need for a group is there, and they always form a group with the same species of birds. But that is not always true. There is a concept of mixed grouping, where a large group will have maybe 7-8 species of birds. Fine. So we undertook this study in Sikkim. And we had certain, the hypothesis. The first hypothesis was that small birds display greater propensity for mixed group behavior. Why? Because small group birds, they are more vulnerable to the predators. Fine? So they need protection. They need more eyes to protect them. And that is why smaller birds would be in the mixed group, not the larger birds. Another hypothesis was more mixed grouping behavior during winter months. Why? Because during spring, summer, and early part of monsoon, they are busy breeding, nest building, laying nest, protecting babies. So that is from February onwards up to July, August. And this is the time when resources are many. So you don't need to move to very far distances. It is during winters that, you have to move a lot. And since the babies are not there, you do not need to protect anything. And so, they will be moving far. And yes, in India we found it is in Sikkim we found it is during, the November, December, January, the mixed groupings are there. In Australia we found it is more in, the May, June, July, which is the winter over there. The third hypothesis we had was that more mixed groups in dense forest than the agricultural fields. The fourth was number of birds in mixed group to follow normal distribution curve. Okay, what is a normal distribution curve? A bell-shaped curve. What is the meaning of a bell-shaped curve? Sorry? No, symmetry is there, but why symmetry is there?
More median.
You see, we call it normal curve, we do not call it abnormal curve. It is normal because in nature you find it. In nature, most values will be near the mean. And as you move away from the mean, there will be lesser and lesser. That is the reason why you get a bell-shaped curve. Fine. Insect-eating birds are more likely to participate in mixed grouping than plant feeders. Because insects are, spread to the large distances, and therefore we assume that it will be the insect-eating birds. And birds, species that forage using active methods, they will be joining the flocks more than the sit and wait predators. There are certain birds which sit on one place, observing. Suddenly they see an insect, they pounce and come back to the same place and eat it. Again they sit there and again they pounce it.
Just like kingfisher.
Like kingfisher. Yeah. Fine. Owls also do that. The owl in my house, which lives in my house, it is there, it sits on the place we have created for folding, for drying the clothes. It sits over there, and then, it pounces and comes back. And then, so for 2, 3, 4 hours, it keeps on sitting over there. So these type of birds, they will not be a part of mixed grouping. It is the one who actively seek, they are the ones who will be there. This is one of the ambush predators. Number of birds per size. So again, you can see the smaller birds are more in numbers than the bigger birds. Mixed grouping across seasons. This is you can see January, February there is high, and then September, October, November, December it is higher. Insect eating birds, you can see 94% are insectivores. Okay, this altitude was also taken. They were more in temperate regions, but the reason could be there are more birds in temperate region. So this is an inconclusive finding. Groups observed with varying species numbers. There were groups with 2 species. There were groups with 10 species, but 6, 5, 6, 7 was the highest. So it's as you can see that it's a normal distribution curve. Fine. So again, I'm repeating it. Please use the theory, the philosophy in your research. Do not just jump that, okay, this is the data, this is analysis, this is finding. Correlate everything through the theory. Fine? Okay. Any questions from your side? Yes,
How
please.
these data been collected? Like
This one data, it is not remote sensed. This data has been through observation, because I did at a time when, we didn't have any of these devices. Okay, so this was. Okay, no questions, so we can move on to the next topic. Okay. Experimental design. Okay, let me ask you a question. Since all of you are with science and engineering background, what is an experiment?
It's just random output.
Random experiment should not be random. Input should be random, but output should not be random. What is an experiment? Steps are followed everywhere. Even when you are buying something from the market, you will follow certain steps.
to find answers for the particular question.
That is research. Then you are going back into. I am asking precisely what experiment is.
Some inputs and some outcomes. Some inputs there and some outcomes.
That is, input and output is there in any model, any system.
So it is something to see, observe or
Experiment. Okay.
First of all, you have to select your object.
Sorry, ma'am.
First of all, you have to select your object, what you want to do.
Okay. No. That you are talking about the entire research. When you start a research, you have to have an objective. Yes. But I am asking, what is an experiment? Experimental design. Go ahead. Second number. Experimental design. Please write down. Don't ever. You should know what experiment is. An experiment is a controlled setup where effect of independent variable is observed or measured on a dependent variable. Okay? Now tell me, what is a variable?
Which can vary standard time.
Which can vary. Okay, yeah, it is the opposite of constant. Okay, till class 5 we were very happy with mathematics because 5 is 5, 4 is 4. Then in class 6 suddenly the x comes in. Fine? So x is a variable because it can take many values. Can you give examples of variables?
Suppose height, weight.
Height,
Weight.
weight, yeah, month, day, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, student, teachers, all these are variables. Fine? What is an independent variable?
Independent means that does not depend on any variable. Suppose height. Weight can be determined through height.
Okay.
There is relationship
Okay.
between
Yes.
independent and
Yeah, you are correct. And what is the dependent variable?
Value depend on some other.
Okay, good. So let us go ahead with it. This is an example where the temperature is the independent variable and the solubility is the dependent variable. Okay, I'm sure in your class 9, 10 you must have done some experiment of solubility using temperature. Fine, you must have done it. So that's what we are talking about. Here, what is the independent variable? Temperature. And dependent variable is the solubility. First thing, always remember that independent variable is on the x-axis and dependent variable is on the y-axis. Why I am saying it, sometimes during the presentation we find people put the dependent variable on the x-axis and independent on the y-axis. Okay? So please.
Temperature also can be changed because it is the presence of sunlight or presence of fog.
We'll be coming to that. Okay, since you have invoked it. In the definition, we use the word controlled setup. What is the meaning of control over here?
Controlling the conditions.
Not conditions.
The control is.
You see, remember, okay, does solubility depend only on temperature? It depends on many other factors. It depends on maybe the hardness of water or the water. It may, the solvent rather. It may also depend on the particle size. It may depend on various other factors. So it means there are many variables which affect solubility. Now, if you want to measure the effect of only temperature, other variables have to be controlled. Fine? And those are called control variables. I am not getting into it because we have already discussed it. What is an independent variable, what is a dependent variable, and so on. Let me take some examples. What is the independent variable and what is the dependent variable?
Time and student.
Age is the independent variable and dependent
Time.
the time it takes to solve it. Clear? And what could be the control variable here? Can there be control variables? The puzzle itself? It cannot be you start changing puzzles in between. Fine? It could be maybe the children with the different backgrounds. Children from the rich background, children from the poor background, children from urban setting, children from rural setting. That can also affect it. So that also those are the control variables. What is the independent variable and what is the dependent variable?
Size of the nail,
Dependent,
number of people.
the size of the nails dependent variable.
Sorry?
Size of the nail is dependent variable.
Okay. And independent?
Independent is
Number of
size.
people
Dependent is
Size
number.
of the nail is independent.
Number of clips
Yes.
is the dependent. Independent is?
Size of the nail.
Yeah. Okay. And what could be the control variables?
Electricity, supply of electricity.
Yeah, supply of the electricity means, maybe how tightly you have wounded, how many times you have wounded, and maybe the diameter of the wire, and so many things with the nails itself, the material that the nails are made up of. Fine? And so many other factors would come in. Okay, then we come to a very interesting aspect, design of a good experimental study. A good experiment is based on control, randomization, and replication. Have you heard, when we talk about a control group, have you heard of something called placebo? Placebo effect. What is it?
Injection of water instead of medicine. I have to study the effect of medicine. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, you are right. Okay, placebo is something, which has been through research, people have found it. It is like this. If I have a fever or if I have pain, I go to the doctor and the doctor says, don't worry, we will take care of it. And he gives me a medicine, I take the medicine and I start feeling fine. Whereas doctor has not given me medicine, he has given me a sugar pill. My question to you is why?
The confidence he has given, that is the
Yeah, because it means, even the psychological effect, psychology has a physiological effect. So because my mind has been, deceived into believing that a medicine has been giving, my mind giving the instructions accordingly and the pain goes down. It happens. It is not, it is not something which, unscientific. There is nothing unscientific about it. Fine. The faith healing is essentially this. Fine. Now, how is placebo important in the context of what aspect placebo brings into an experiment? That is my question to you. If I have to do an experiment to measure the effect of a medicine, okay? If I take somebody is having a fever of 104, I give the medicine, the fever comes down to 100. Okay, can I assume that, one tablet can bring down the fever by 4 degrees? Can I say that? Yes or no?
No.
Why?
it will vary from man to man.
So I suppose I did it with 500 people and on average it came down by 4 degrees. Can I assume it to be correct? Yes or no? He is saying no. You are saying yes. We are disregarding the placebo effect. If I have to do an experiment, I have to divide people in 250 people in one group, 250 people in another group. One group I will give the medicine, the another group I will give the sugar. And then suppose here the temperature comes down by 4 degrees, here the temperature comes down by 2 degrees, then I say the effect of medicine is only 2 degrees. Because 2 degrees is because of the placebo. Fine? Now my question to you is this concept relevant for remote sensing studies? It is. You will have to use control groups also. Fine? Now, I am not going into randomization and replication because I assume you understand this. What is random? What is the meaning of randomization?
Every individual in the population has equal chance of getting selected.
Where everybody has equal chance of getting it, which means there is no bias. Okay, if I am asked that I have to pick up the best singer from here, and I know that maybe he sings the best, and I pick him up, this is biased. It is quite possible that somebody else sings better than him. It is quite possible. So it is not random. Got it? So that is randomization. Randomization is important in remote sensing, particularly ecological studies also. And of course, replication, once you find your result, do not jump to the conclusion. Replicate it. Okay? Request others also to replicate it. Okay? Unfortunately, the lady who got the Nobel Prize in the year 2023, now she herself is saying that those results cannot be replicated. Replication is a very major ethical issue in scientific studies. It's major. Okay. This is the concept of causality. Generally, we believe that X is the only cause of Y, which is not true. Very often, it is only the one possible reason for Y. Right? X must always lead to Y. That is not always true. It is that there is a high probability that if X will happen, then Y will also happen. It is probable. It is not definite. ठीक है, sure. Are we ready for the tea?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I didn't know I am such a bad teacher. Okay, please come have tea.
Sir, let us go for a tea break. Or
Come.
resume the session after 10 minutes. Sir, please. Sure.
Fine. Excuse me, please stop the discussion. Fine. We come to the most important aspect of it. The point I want to make here is that experiments are of different kinds. Okay, most of you are in the habit of using only the word experiment, but you do not use the precise name of the experiment in your methodology. So that's what I want to get into. You know what is a concomitant variation in science? Have you heard of concomitant variation? What is it? Suppose you are having a study, you are trying to differentiate between the woodland and the shrubs, woods and the shrub, forest and the shrubs. Okay? Eventually, it is not that you will be getting 100% wood and 100% shrub. You will never get it. Okay? It is quite possible that the algorithm that you have developed Eventually, when you apply it, only about 92% of the wood is correctly found, 8% is wrongly found. On the other hand, the shrub is 87% correctly found and 13% is wrongly found. This will happen. It will not be 100 and 0. Now, this aspect is called concomitant variation. Because I find that in remote sensing, people use the term, but they are not aware of it. Fine? So when you are talking about an experiment, you have to keep this also in mind. Okay, so experiments are of very different kinds. Experiment can be subdivided basically into 4 categories: pre-experimental, true experimental, then your quasi-experimental and statistical. We will not discuss statistical over here. Because in remote sensing, I generally find it is the pre-experiment, the true experiment, and the quasi-experiment which we utilize. A pre-experiment can be divided into 3 categories: one short case study, one group pre-test, post-test, static group. The true experiment can again be divided into pre-test, post-test, control group, post-test only control group, and Solomon 4. And your quasi-experiment can be subdivided into time series and multiple time series. Generally, when explaining an experiment, these are the notations we use. X for exposure, O for observation or measurement, R for random, EG for experimental group, and C for control group. Okay, one short case study. Okay, let us say last year in the month of October, we had a massive flood. A lake had burst, and this river Tista, it was, flooded almost suddenly. Okay. Now, suppose we take a remote picture of that river, okay, and then analyze it. Will we call it an experiment? Or I take a picture, suppose I am using remote sensing tools, I am trying to find, say, the gold ore in Sikkim somewhere. So I take an observation and then analyze it. Will we call it an experiment? Yes or no? It is a pre-experiment. It is not a true experiment. And rightfully speaking, it is a one short case study. We call it a case study because only one, observation has been taken. Fine? Clear? Okay. Next is Avranil is there? He has gone. So, to whom should I send the...
You can send it to Avranil. He's outside when we're discussing.
So just tell him that I have sent him one thing. He can share it on the WhatsApp.
I already shared.
You have already shared? Okay. Good. No, just now I have sent. Not the quiz. Send. Thank you, Avranil. Now, this is a slide of the Wayanad. Last year, there was a massive landslide where mountain was literally, flowing. And so this is where, the picture before the landslide and the picture after the landslide has been shown. Do you see this? What would you call this kind of an experiment?
Group.
It's given there. It is a one group pre-test, post-test design. There is an observation, then there was landslide, another observation. Is it an experiment? It is a pre-experiment. You see, the point the point I am making is that you will be doing all these kinds of things, but then you should know what exactly you are doing. Experiment is a very wide term. There are different types of experiment. So if you are doing this kind of a study, we can do this kind of a study in Sikkim also. The place before the landslide and the place after the landslide. We can do it. But in order to explain it, you have to say it is a one group pre-test, post-test design. These terminologies have to be used in your, when you are writing it down. Fine? This is also there. You could have done this also, but fortunately I could send it. Then you have static group design. Now suppose you are studying, say, a plant disease, okay? Or you are trying to study maybe the effect of maybe fertilizer on a certain plant. What you can do is, you can have an experimental group and you can have a control group, which means there would be certain area of the plant which we call the experimental group and a certain area which will be designated as control group. One group, the first group, the experimental group, the fertilizer will be provided, and in the second group the fertilizer will not be provided, which means in the first group the exposure is there to the fertilizer, in the second group the exposure is not there. And then we shall see the difference in the plant, okay? Using maybe remote sensed data. This kind of a design is called a static group design. Now my question to you is, which is better, this or the previous one? This is better or this is better? Why this is better?
We will know the impact, how impactful the use of fertilizer was. Do we need to impact?
No, first of all, understand that these are, two different types. So which means on certain occasions you will be needing the first one, certain occasions you will be needing the second one. When we talk about your validity of an experiment, validity gets compromised to some extent. So there are different types of validity connotations for the first, and there are different validity connotations over here. That part I want you to understand. Okay, now we come to the true experiment. Now can you tell me why the previous three pre-experiments that we discussed, we do not call them true experiment?
Because it is only applied for particular group, not only various type of.
Okay, okay. No, because the selection was not random.
Yes.
Okay, randomness is a very important aspect of experiment. We cannot call anything true experiment until unless the randomness has been ensured. Now this is a true experiment, the pre-test post-test control group design, which is very similar to the pre-test post-test design which we did earlier. Here we take the experimental group and the control group. Now again it is the same thing, that we want to study the effect of fertilizer on a certain plant. So we have experimental group and a control group. In the experimental group, the fertilizer, we make an observation, then fertilizer is provided, and we, after maybe 1 month, again we take another observation. For the control group, we take the observation, we do not put any fertilizer, and after 1 month again we take the observation. This will provide us with the exact impact. Okay. Let me put it this way. If I again go back to the example of the medicine, the placebo medicine, suppose control group has 104 fever, and a medicine is sugar is given to them, and the fever comes down to 102. Fine. In the experiment group, fever is 103, and we give the medicine, and it comes down to 99. What is the effect of medicine? How will you measure it? Write down, otherwise you will forget it. Control group, rather placebo group, 104, and afterwards 102. Experimental group, 103 and 99. What is the effect of the medicine?
2 degrees difference.
How come? O2 minus O1 minus O4 minus O3. 104 minus 102, which is 2 degrees, and this is 103 minus 99, 4 degrees, so 4 minus 2 is 2. So the effect of medicine is that it reduces temperature only by 2 degrees. Now this is a true experiment. Fine? Sorry?
Practically it happens, sir. For pharmaceutical company it happens, sir.
Obviously, we do exactly precisely in this way. Yeah. No pharmaceutical experiment can do without the placebo effect.
Sir, does placebo effect happens on plants also?
It happens. It happens, but that's why we are taking the control group also. We are not doing it absolutely.
So plant also react to these placebo effects?
No, in case of plant, it may not be placebo, it may be the time effect. Effect could be time effect also. 1 month, it will, obviously there will be changes into it. Okay, and we do not know. You see, as a scientist, if you ask me a question whether plants have a placebo effect or not, I do not know. Give me the evidence. I will accept it if the evidence is there. But then there are studies which show that they have a placebo effect. Fine? So,
Sir, you have told that 2 degrees minimized due to placebo effect.
I said 2 degrees because of medicine.
Medicine.
Yeah.
Some
Placebo is
other-
already there, 104 minus 102.
But it may be possible there are same type of placebo effect is not work on every people.
But you see, what happens is when we do this kind of an experiment, it is not that I take one person as control and one person as placebo. I take 250 control, 250. So it is assumed that overall it will neutralize each other. किसी को ज़्यादा होगा, किसी को कम होगा, तो average हो जाएगा.
Sir, it's make group ऐसा भी बना सकते हैं. We can make a group such that they have no placebo effect, no medicine. If they have fever, they remain as such, without any medicine, without any
It can be made.
psychological
It can be
medicine.
made.
Then three groups may be compared.
We can have 3 groups also. Yes, definitely. Now this is a post-test only control group design. This is very similar to the one which we did in the pre-experiment one. The only difference being that here we are doing it random. Fine? I am not going into the Solomon 4, although I have been told that Solomon 4 design is used in remote sensing also. Okay, here instead of 2 groups, we have 4 groups. Okay, mostly my understanding was that we use it in psychology, but then I was told that in remote sensing also it is used. Maybe one of you can explore how it is used. But here what we do is we have 4 groups of people, 2 control and 2 what you call the experimental groups. One, there is the treatment is for 2 of them, they are exposed, other 2 are not exposed. Fine, so for one we do the pre-test and post, for the 2 we do the pre-test and post-test, for the other we do only the post-test, O5 and O6. Fine? Here the effect is calculated in this way. Effect of independent variables is O2 minus O4 or O5 minus O6. Effect of pre-testing is O4 minus O6. Effect of pre-testing and measuring is O2 minus O5. And effect of random assignment is O1 minus O3. So this is a very complete experiment. As I said, that my understanding was that it is most useful in psychology, but then people are using it in remote sensing also. I could not find any experiment of this kind. There are some references in the literature. One of you may find out and maybe help me also to understand it. Fine? So again, my request is that when you are writing, you should have a very good understanding what your experiment is. It is not just an experiment. So you should be aware what is the independent variable, what are the dependent variables, what did you do to control the control variables. There can be, extra variables, the variables from the outside also can be there sometimes. So, fine. And what experimental design you are using. Because each experimental design has certain advantages, certain disadvantages. Fine. Any question on this part? So can we move to the third part? Okay. Yeah, sure.
I want to know, sir, whatever the picture shown, why not raster? Sir, what is the method to take the pics? And what type of software is using? I want to know.
Ma'am, software is not used, it is the data. Data was remote sensed. I do not know which satellite, from which satellite it was
Sir,
taken.
from where you get this data? Is it available on this site?
Ma'am, data, some data is freely available, some is classified one. Sometimes you have to buy it, sometimes you cannot even buy it if it is important for the government of India in terms of defense, then they will not provide you. Fine? So it depends. Some are freely available, some you can pay and you can buy it, although it is very expensive most of the time.
I want to know the website from it can get this.
There can be many different
So
sites.
they're the only one they have no information, no background about that.
Uh,
One or two.
Like
Just simple.
yesterday, Samir sir suggested for Cyclone you can get data from IND or from WhatsApp.
different agencies.
So under ISRO there are many websites that come under SAT-Ahmedabad or NRSC. So they
On
have
the
platforms.
In fact, now there are many private players also.
Some sites.
And you can generate your own also. It will not be what you call the the satellite data. But if you can use a drone, you can collect your own data also. I could have used a drone for that Wayanad one. That would also, in fact, that would be this one is, I think, a drone data. It is not really a satellite data. So you can do it using drone also. Sorry?
I would say in the case of COVID when it happened. So earlier the death rate was more because the people were more in panic, not more panic. So the effect actually was more when and in the later phase of wave, when they got used to this COVID, the effect was the death rate was though the vaccine also came, but still.
No, what you are saying is, yeah, what you are saying is very right. The placebo effect is the negative also. I mean, they say I do not know the authenticity of the experiment, but people say that it was experimented that one person was told that, the death sentence is by the snake bite. Okay, the snake was shown to him, and then, without, it was not the snake which bit him, they put just 2 pins. And actually the poison developed. Okay, so yeah, that is also a placebo effect. So it is negative also. It is not only positive. I mean, since you are talking about it, there is a very famous story by a Russian writer where, this child is, like any child is 7-8 year old. When unwell, they create so much problem for everyone. I mean, he wanted his mother to sit with him continuously, not cook or do anything, and so on. Then, the doctor was brought, and the doctor said, don't worry, the fever is only 104. 100 only, so not much fever, give him this medicine and he will be fine. Now, after some time, the father noticed that the child is, not having any tantrums at all. And he's talking more like an adult. So then the father went to him and said, should I tell you a story? He said, yes, if you want to. So he said, what is this? I mean, do you want to hear? Or it is not that I want to tell you the story and so on. So the child kept on behaving very strangely. Okay. And then at one point, when he was telling the story, he said, Papa, please don't cry when I die. So father said, but what gave you the idea that you will die? He said, no, I know I'm going to die. So he said, why? Then he said, no, the doctor said that I have 100-degree temperature. And in my book, it is written that above 45 you die. So obviously, psychological effect is there. Identifying appropriate statistical technique. Okay, this is the last part of our discussion. I hope to complete it in time. I'll send you another quiz. I understand that you are not getting the answer. Even I am not getting any, the overall result to show whether you are doing it correct or not. But we will discuss it at some point. Avnil, I have just sent it. Please share it.
So what is the meaning of this nomical scale?
We will discuss it. That's what I try to find out, whether you understand or not. Which means I need to teach it.
It's like a
Should we move ahead? Okay, 2 more minutes. In this case, we will be discussing some things over here, so that may help you to understand the questions. Okay, I think we'll move ahead. You see, I had planned to address 3 issues during this discussion. The first was the use of theory or philosophy in your research, which otherwise remains neglected. The second was the experimental part, understand what exactly an experiment is, and that there are different types of experiment. Some are pre-experiment. When we say pre-experiment, it means, whatever the hypothesis that you accept or reject, that may not be very conclusive, okay? Because ultimately it's just a pre-experiment. And then there are true experiment. Maybe after doing the pre-experiment, you can go for a true experiment also. One thing which I missed over there was regarding the quasi-experiments. What is the meaning of the word quasi? Quasi is partial experiment. Essentially, what you call the the time series studies. Okay. You see, you can study using remote sensing. Like one of our students, she had studied the lakes of Sikkim. Okay, from 1970 to the year 2011. and she had using the remote sense data, and she came to the conclusion that the shape and the size of the lakes is changing. New lakes are forming and some old lakes have disappeared. But overall she found that the number of lakes increased from say 167 to about 220. It increased. Why did it increase? The glaciers are receding. So they are leaving new lakes behind them. It's a bad sign. It should not happen. This is a proof that climate change is taking place. So this was a time series study. This kind of a study, we call it a quasi-experiment. Fine. Okay. The third thing which I want to address is that the use of statistical tools. You see, ultimately, whether you use Python or R or anything, ultimately you are using statistical techniques. Am I correct? Fine. So a good understanding when and where which test should be used, that is very important. Okay. In order to decide what what analytical tool, statistical tool you will be using, there are essentially 5 questions to be answered. How many variables you have? You can have one variable, few variables, or too many variables. Second question is, what is the objective of your research? Okay, the objective of your research could be either you want to describe, or you want to classify, or you want to compare, or you want to predict, or you want to explain. The third is what scale of measurement you have used. Now this is where I found that you were having difficulty, so we will be discussing it. And of course there are dependent and independent variables. And are the samples autocorrelated by location or time series? Okay, in case of remote sense data, these two are the important possibilities. Okay, let's understand measurement and scaling. What do you understand by the term measurement, and what do you understand by the term scaling?
Scaling means increasing by times.
Sorry?
Scaling means increase or decrease.
Not in that respect. Yeah, scaling is used that way also, but we are not talking of that scaling. Here, scale. What is measurement?
Respect to which we measure
Yeah, I mean for our purpose, scientific purpose, we need to assume certain values. For example, from where it has come that 1 meter is this long? From where it has come? Where is it? What is the standard?
From the statistical data,
Not statistical, nothing, no statistics into it. In the British Museum, there is a rod, I don't know what it is made up of, okay, that is considered 1 meter. Anywhere, if there is a doubt that whether this is 1 meter or less than 1 meter or more than 1 meter, ultimately you have to go and check back with that, whether it is exactly 1 meter or not. The point I am making is meter, kg, minute, whatever we are saying, they are not absolute, they are human made, human assumed. So we have to have a measure of a meter, kilometer, centimeter, kilogram, gram, tons. We have to have a measure. Scaling is when on that meter we put, okay, if we divide that meter equally into 100 parts. So 1 centimeter, 2 centimeter, 3 centimeter, 4 centimeter, that is the scaling part. Okay. But the important thing which I wanted to discuss here was the, what you call the, There are 4 types of primary scales that we use in remote sensing also and in other research also. They are known as nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. A nominal scale. Okay, can anyone tell me the meaning of the word nominal in English? Numerical. Nominal means in name only. Only the name, otherwise no significance.
Male, female, like male, female.
We will be coming to that. First I am asking what is nominal. Okay, just to give you an example, you know that one Indian has been caught by Pakistanis saying that he is an Indian spy, one Jadhav. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
Now, for that, India had taken Pakistan to the international court, and for Indian side, Mr. Salve had fought that case. Okay, what was the fee he charged, Mr. Salve? 1 rupee. Now, do you think that actually 1 rupee was paid to him? You see, he is a person who for one appearance charges 2 crore rupees otherwise. But because it was a case of India, he charged only 1 rupee, whereas the Pakistani advocate had charged, I think, $1 million. That was the difference. So this fee of 1 rupee is nominal. It is only in name. I don't think any money was actually given and taken. Fine? Now you may be, for example, we have a registration number of vehicles. Do those numbers have any mathematical significance? They do not have any mathematical significance. Maybe some of you are having a registration number as a student or maybe as an employee code number. Do you have it? Does it have any mathematical significance? No. So it is a nominal number. When people are playing football, do you find a number written over the jersey? Does it have any mathematical significance? No. These are nominal numbers. And as sir was rightly saying, sometimes, you will be using these numbers for male, female, or highly educated, not educated, or young age, old age, in that manner. How we use it in remote sensing, we shall see that. Ordinal, the word ordinal means order. When people run 100 meters at the end, you say he is first, he is second, he is third. First, second, third, rank. Now this is order. Does order have any mathematical significance? Yes. The one who has come first has run the fastest. He has run faster than the second has run faster than the third. So the mathematical significance is there. But if I ask you, what is the difference between first and second, can you tell? You cannot tell. Which means you cannot do the subtraction, addition you cannot do in ordinal scale. Interval scale is where there are, intervals. So if he scores 7 and he scores 5, I can say 7 minus 5. So there is a difference of 2 in between them. Fine? So that is also possible. Now ratio essentially is an interval scale that starts at 0. That starts at 0. Because if it starts at 0, you can calculate the ratio also. Fine? Out of these, which is the best? No, that's a different issue, but suppose you can use nominal also, ordinal also, interval also, ratio also. Suppose you can use in a situation. Which one should you choose? Ratio. Why?
It gives exactly.
Because best analytical techniques can be utilized with that. They can be used with that data. That is one reason. Secondly, your ratio data can be converted into interval data also, and it can be converted into ordinal data also. Suppose he scores 190 and you score 80. It is not only that I know that the ratio is 9:8, I also know that he is first, you are second. So ordinal also can be interpret it from that data. Okay? Now, so is this clear now? So you were asking what is nominal, ordinal.
Sir,
So,
Aadhaar number may be a nominal.
sorry?
Aadhaar number.
Aadhaar card is a nominal number. Yes, yes, correct. ये क्या हो गया? Okay, anyway you cannot read it. Suppose the question is there is sufficient prey base of leopards in urban Mumbai. Strongly agree, agree, neutral. Suppose you are trying to study. Are you aware that leopards are found in Bombay also? Main city? Yeah, they are found over. Fine. Now, if my question, I am trying to understand the prey base for leopards, and if I ask a question in my questionnaire, I put a question that there is sufficient prey base for leopards in urban Mumbai, and the answer could be strongly agree to strongly disagree. What kind of a scale is this?
Interval.
It is interval, or can we call it ordinal? We can call it both. Generally, some people may use it as interval. A classical statistician will use it as ordinal. But we people, we use it as interval also. Nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio. I have already written ranked. So ranking is ordinal. Soil pH across Sikkim. Interval or ratio?
Ratio.
Why ratio? Why interval?
Then there is a number associated.
Ratio, because we find the exact number.
What is the range of pH?
Then this is interval.
Range of pH? 1 to 14. It does not start at 0. It starts at 1.
So ranking rounding is not applicable.
Hmm?
Ranking ratio is not applicable.
It is not ratio. It is interval. It is interval. If there is a ratio of, if pH is 9 and pH is 5, we cannot calculate the ratio because base is not 0. Land cover, woods, scrub, orchard, vineyard, mangrove. Nominal? All of you agree with that? Okay. Vegetation health. It could be ratio also. If you say yes, it starts at 0, suppose, it could be ratio also. I have read papers where vegetation health is a ratio scale. I have seen those. That's why I am saying it.
Index is given.
Sorry?
Index, vegetation health index.
Index. Okay. Classifying land based on suitability of farming. Ordinal. You are classifying it. Best, second best, third best. Determining percentile to identify regions within a specific performance bracket. This will be interval. Spatial scale. Now, I am sure you have used the spatial scale. It is a ratio. It is a ratio. Fine. Land use type, urban, rural, forest. Nominal scale. So now is it clear? Nominal, ordinal, is it clear to you?
So the spatial scale, you said it is ratio scale. But then can we have a 0?
Can?
Can we have a 0 on any spatial scale?
You can. That's why it is a ratio scale. You can have. Amount of carbon footprints generated by tribals sustained in forest ecosystem. It can be ratio. Temperature across the world cities. Interval. Temperature does not have the base 0 as a base. -4, -10. Fine? So it is an interval scale. Weather, cold, warm, hot, very hot.
Ordinal or interval both.
This would be ordinal. Fine. So are we clear onto this? Because this is an important input to decide which technique you will be using later onwards. Okay.
Sir, I have one doubt.
Yeah.
What if we express temperature in Kelvin? It's
Sorry?
What if we express temperature
No,
in Kelvin?
most of the time we are not using. Most of the time we are taking Celsius. Okay?
What in scientific study we take in Kelvin? We express in Kelvin nowadays.
I am not aware. I come from a background where it was Celsius. So where am I? Okay? So I know there is an absolute zero of I think minus 273 degrees.
But actually, in that example, we are not actually giving the numbers for temperature. We are just giving it hot, very hot, cold. Or
No. He is not talking about this. He is talking about where we are talking about the temperature. But even now, if you find the temperature of the cities, it is always in Celsius only, and always.
Yeah, for day-to-day life it is.
Yeah. I mean, Sikkim, I have never seen somebody telling the absolute temperature of Sikkim. Nobody has ever told me. You go to the internet also, they will just not tell you a temperature of maybe 21, 22. Okay? Okay, I'm not getting into it. This, again, this has come. Okay. हो गया सर? सर मुझे 5 मिनट दीजिए, 5 मिनट में करता हूँ. Okay. Here is the base for it. If you have just one variable and you want to describe, classify, compare, prediction or explanation, okay, if you want to describe, you can go for discrete scales, counts, proportion. For continuous scale, you can go for mean, median, standard deviation. If you want to classify, you can go for filtering, sorting, cluster analysis. If you are comparing, then you can go for discrete scales. You know what is a discrete scale and continuous scale?
yes.
Discrete is right, wrong, yes, no, and so on. And continuous scale, which is continuous in nature. You cannot predict, you cannot go for explanation if there is only one variable. If there is more than one, some independent and some dependent variable, then you can still not predict, but you can go for explanation on the basis of cluster analysis, multi-dimensional scaling, principal component analysis, factor analysis, and correspondence analysis. This is what you can do. For describe, again, you can go for correlations or maybe the Pearson correlation if it is continuous. If you are classifying, again, you go only for filtering, sorting, cluster analysis, and so on. Fine? If there is more than one, dependent variables are not auto-correlated. It can be auto-correlated or it may not be auto-correlated. Then again, these are the techniques that you can use. You can use for explanation, you can go for logistic regression, classification trees, discriminant analysis. If it is continuous, you can go for regression or canonical correlations. Fine? For classify, you can go for cluster analysis, discriminant analysis, neural network, and so on. If more than one dependent variable, but they are auto-correlated and they are location dependent, in that case, you will be having, all these things you can do in the descriptive, but with a location dependent grouping. For prediction, you have to go for smoothing, interpolations, trend surfaces, geostatistics, variogramming, kriging. And for explanation, you can go for trend surfaces, geostatistics, variogramming, and kriging. If it is time dependent, then essentially you can go for techniques which where the time dependent grouping has to be there. For prediction, you can go for smoothing, interpolations, time series, regression, ARIMA, spectral analysis, and neural network. For explanation, again you can go for time series, regression, ARIMA, and spectral analysis. Okay.
What is ARIMA?
ARIMA is a kind of a model for time series analysis. There may be many terms which you may not have heard of, but when you are doing the analysis, those probabilities will be there. But my concern was that which technique has to be used, the base should be clear to you. And again, I'm repeating it, it is essentially based on the, what are your scales? They are nominal, ordinal, interval or ratio. The second is what is the objective? Are you trying to describe? Are you trying to classify? Are you trying to predict? Are you trying to explain? On that basis you will have to decide these. Fine, so don't ever do it blindly. Understand the logic behind it. When you are making your presentations, people may ask you why you have used this analysis. And that you should be able to explain. Fine? Any questions from your side? You can have these PPTs, so there is no issue in it. Okay, it is there. If you want, I can send it on WhatsApp also. So
I will share.
Share kar diya? Okay.
Share.
So you have it. There is no copyright onto it, fine?
I will share.
Sure. Please share. Fine. Yeah. Any question from your side? I think you are tired. Or you are bored. Interesting. Okay. Thank you so much if you find. I just hope you are not saying it just to make me happy. Okay. Please take care. Thank you so much. And my best wishes to everyone. My prayers for each one of you. And I want each one of you to be successful in whatever endeavor you get into. And best of luck, best wishes.